Alright, today we're breaking from tradition. Don't worry everybody, this isn't my 4-stroke. I would never do that. Just kidding. This is a friend of mine. He bought this 07 YZ450 for dirt cheap, bit of a basket case, but he got it off a guy who also got it off a trade and yada 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 this, and nobody really knows the last time it ran. I've been tasked with trying to get it running to see if it's worthwhile. Waiting on a stator right now, so told him it might be a good time while I'm waiting for parts to go and check the valve clearances. So I'm going to show you how to do it. Ignore the fact that it's half disassembled already. When you go to do this, you don't need to take the subframe off. I just have it off because I had the carb removed and yada yada yada. I'm waiting on parts. I'm not going to put everything back together, but all you need to do is take the gas tank off. You need to take the head stay off, these two right here, because this cover needs room to come up and lift off. This is the goal, just to get this cylinder head cover off. Then we need to take the spark plug cap out. So do that. It's got a little connector here. You push down on this tab, you hear a click, and just wiggle it off like so. Spin this around, and it'll come out through here, just like so. Disconnect this breather right here. I've already got the clamp off, and then you can just let this kind of go off to the side for now. The head stay does have to come apart, so you need to remove this bolt here, that one there, these two, and then the one guy down through here, just to get enough clearance to lift that cover off. And by the way, all these head stay bolts are all 14mm. Yamaha, the beauties they are, they all have anchors, so you don't need to get a wrench on to put on the other side on a nut. Thank you so much for doing that. 21mm breaker bar. Oh my god. Oh yeah. Alright, now with that off, I can get a little more angry at these guys. These are 5mm hex, by the way. Let's try and not make it a 5mm circle. Damn it. Need an extension. You get a stuck fastener like this. Anytime, a good little trick to do is to, while pushing down hard here obviously, I have it cracked loose already, so I'm holding my camera in the other hand, but just bounce the ratchet, kind of act like an impact would if you could get it in there. Oftentimes just bouncing it a little bit will crack that whatever kind of corrosion and stickiness is happening in there, and she'll come right out. Those two bolts out, this cover will come right off once you break the last guy's Gamma Lube seal. Kind of slowly walk it out. Try to keep the gasket either attached to the cover or attached to the cylinder head, one or the other. Don't rip it, whatever you do. Alright, got the cover off, and don't worry, it's only pretty frustrating to kind of weasel it out of there with all these cables and crap. Return cables, hot start, TPS, good god, 4 strokes. Anyway, let's get to her. Next we need to find top dead center. So let's go to the left side of the bike. Then you're going to take these two plugs out of the bike. This one's the inspection cover, and this one uncovers the end of the crankshaft, which is a 17mm nut. So get a socket or a T-handle like this. Turn it until you see inside some lines, if it would focus. See those lines inside there on the flywheel? There's 3. The one I believe on the farthest right is the one you want to line up with this notch cut in the threads for the inspection plug. And if it's not there, that's where you use this guide, and this spins the engine. So you turn it until those line up, and then up top on the camshafts you will see punch marks right there on the actual gear itself, and then on the intake one, where is it? There it is, down there. So I need to turn it just a little bit. Those punch marks should line up with the cylinder head casting itself. Right about there, they're both just visible. Another good way to make sure you got top dead center is both exhausts and intake sets of valves should not be actuated, meaning these lobes shouldn't be pushing down on the valves at all. So essentially the engine right now is ready to fire at the start of the power stroke. Next, get a pen and paper and write down the specs. You can find these online. These are the numbers that I'm shooting for. So I've got it written down for me to track the clearances. This is for a buddy of mine, but I would do it for my own bike too, just to kind of keep an eye on them. And then you get your feeler gauges. Since I think this bike is a little bit of a roach, I'm going to start with the tightest allowable on both, because usually as valve seats wear, the clearances get smaller, and dirt and debris getting sucked in there and smashed against the seat for a long time. People not cleaning their air filters. Start the smallest, and if you can't get the smallest in, well, then you need to know you need to shim it right away. 0.102. Let's try it. And on these silly 5-valve Yamahas, there's 3 intake valves we need to check and 2 exhausts. So let's start with the intakes. Start with this guy right here. I would call this the number 3 intake valve because it's on the right hand side of the bike. So essentially all you're going to do is you want to see if you can get this thickness to slide between the cam lobe here and then underneath there's what you call a valve bucket. It's shaped like an upside down bucket, and that's what this guy hits as it rotates around, and the bucket in turn pushes the valve down. So we're checking the resting clearance. So let's see if we can fit this guy underneath. It just takes a bit of finesse and some patience, but look at that. She fits through pretty easily, I would say. Let's see if we can get the next thicker size up through there. Try this guy next, a 127. There, it went through, but that was much more of a fight. I doubt I'd be able to get the one. The next step up is the 0.152, and Yamaha says this is as loose as they want it to go. So let's just make sure I can't. Tell you right now, I can't. Doesn't hurt to double check. No dice. This number 3 intake valve, I would call it around 0.127, so we're good there. From there, I'm gonna do the number 2 next. I gotta kind of come down through these 2 posts here, and it's in there, and I'll do the same for the number 1 after that. Just the exact same process, guys. It's easy as that. Okay, so for the middle one, I was able to fight, but I got the 152 in, so that means that that middle one is kind of on the loose end of the spec, but I would still call it around a 0.15, just even, because I really had to force this thing to get it in there. And I'm really not going to do anything about it, because honestly, when I set these bikes up and do get to reshimming them if they need it, I always set them up on the loose side anyway, because as the valves seats wear, the clearances just get tighter anyway. Obviously, I don't want to make this like I wouldn't set it up to be a 0.2 or something like that. That's just obnoxious and very loud valve train, and you're going to wear out other stuff. But if you're hovering right on the loose end of the spec, I wouldn't be too terribly concerned about it. For the number 1 intake valve, I easily got a 178 in there, but I couldn't get a 203, and there's no feeler gauge in between, so you kind of just do a judgment call at that point. If you can, you kind of want to get an exact number when you're doing the math to calculate the shim thickness required, but it's just like an experience and finesse thing. So like a 178 had an okay pinch on it, but I got it in pretty easily, and there was no way I was getting a 203 in, so I would call this one, I don't know, if I had to guess, it'd be close to maybe a 185, or between 185 and 190. So I'm gonna ask buddy old pal if he wants me to shim this up for him, but this one is a little too loose. The number 1 intake, like, that should be dealt with. That's a bit too loose. All right, now let's do the exhaust. Same procedure, but only 2 of them. Here's the 254. This is the limit, but I doubt I'll be able to slide this in all the way. Oh, never mind. Guess I'm an idiot. All right, let's try one bigger. No way. All right, one bigger. No go. We'll call that one a 280, and I'll repeat the process for the second. For the other exhaust, I got 227. So anyway, that's it, fellas. Shimming, I'll show you some other time, but that's all it is. Checking your valve clearances is trying to cram one of these guys underneath some lobes. Write these numbers down to keep track of them, and they'll help you for when you do your math if you do have to change them, which I'm going to have to probably change. This one here is out of this limit. Number 1 intake is much too big. Anyway, hope this helps you guys, and I don't know, we'll see you next time, maybe with some more 4-stroke stuff for a change.